Hi, Genki here. Here are my first impressions of the Final Fantasy XVI demo, and I have one word for this game and it is fire. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I have been hyped for Final Fantasy XVI for a long time, but I went into the demo prepared to be somewhat disappointed as my expectations for the game were through the roof. But it didn't take very long for my fears to be relieved. The demo starts off big and thrusts you into an epic scale icon versus icon battle between Phoenix and Ifrit. You control Phoenix and are tasked to shoot Ifrit in an on-rails shooter segment. After that sequence you meet Clive and play as him in his 20s with a team of soldiers on the battlefield of an immense war between two countries. The game has classic Final Fantasy moments littered throughout, such as the classic Final Fantasy music being used in the opening scenes and the crystal chimes in the soundtrack that are known throughout the series. This is Final Fantasy, but it's taken a new direction, but it absolutely feels like Final Fantasy. Over the next 40 minutes or so of the demo, you're introduced into a lot of dialogue and story parts of the game, and it's full of cutscenes depicting the world and the political temperature of Valistea. It is a very cinematic experience and I enjoyed almost every minute of it. The story of Final Fantasy XVI is super amazing, filled with intense drama, sexual tensions and loads of blood and violence. This game is definitely not for kids. It has so much political drama that it's kind of like watching Game of Thrones. They also use a lot of British words like bugger and a lot of other UK dialect. As someone who grew up in the UK, it adds an extra connection and authenticity to the game. The relationships, betrayals and twists and turns in the story is what makes this game amazing. After playing through parts of the game, you're introduced to the combat in a tutorial section. Once you get a hand of the combat, you are tasked to go on a mission where you can experience more of the combat of Final Fantasy XVI. The combat in this game is so good and stylish. It kind of reminds me of action games like Devil May Cry and Platinum's games, but with a bit more simpler controls, which do get more complex the more abilities you unlock throughout the game. The main attack button is square, which is useful for sword attack, which you can do up to 4 hit combos. Triangle is the magic button, where you can fire off different elements of magic from long range. X is jump, and R1 is dodge, which you'll be using a lot to evade and counter attack enemies. It's a super awesome battle system that is super stylish in action and leaves you smiling with the cool and stylish moves that you'll be pulling off in this game. It's also very accessible with numerous accessories that you can equip to make things like combat much easier. The accessories add things like auto dodging and slowing down time when you're about to get hit, so you can more easily perform an R1 dodge to get out the way and counter. There are quite a few accessibility options for those who are not as experienced at action games. You can still play through the game and experience the amazing story. The voice acting in Final Fantasy XVI is amazing too. Clive's voice is very fitting to his character and you can hear the emotion and struggle in his voice. Also hearing the range from a young, more naive Clive to a more mature Clive in his 20s. The voice acting throughout is great. I especially loved the voice of Sid with his gruff voice sounding super cool. I can't wait to hear more of these characters and experience the intriguing story that lies ahead. The first hour of the demo is very cutscene heavy, but once you get past that, there is more gameplay and you can experience more of the action. After the tutorial, you are first tasked with a mission to clear out a nearby swamp area of goblins. Then a fight with a Morble boss ensues. Here is where the action really ramps up with amazing action combat and cool combat cinematics for the game. It left me with a big grin on my face. Defeating the Morble was a super hype battle. Later in the game you get to play as the young Joshua in a segment that kind of reminded me of the opening to The Last of Us, where you're playing as Joel's daughter Sarah. I really feel Final Fantasy XVI is going for that cinematic AAA game quality, kind of like the games that we're used to from Sony first party, like The Last of Us of God of War. This has that AAA quality feeling, this time mixed with US dramas such as Game of Thrones. And of course it has that Final Fantasy DNA. It's a super awesome mix. From here, the story and combat are really dialed up to the max in continuous moments that leave your jaw on the floor. It's stunning. The cinematography, the action set pieces, everything is just wow. It's really like playing a Hollywood blockbuster, as producer Naoki Yoshida said in an interview. It is a roller coaster ride. The graphics are also top notch in an experience that really makes you feel like this is a next gen game. The pristine character models, the scale and detail of the epic icon kaiju battles, such as in the opening section with Shiva vs Titan. Everything about this game is just wow and super epic. The demo ends with a major plot twist and a major incident to shape the rest of the story. That's where the Final Fantasy XVI logo pops up and leaves you on a cliffhanger, wanting to know more. There are so many questions, and it is such an epic experience. After completing the prologue part of the demo, the game allows you to save the data so that you can transfer it over to the full game. From then on, you unlock a new mode in the startup menu called Iconic Challenge. In this mode, you are put a bit further into the actual game with numerous icon abilities already unlocked, so you can get a true feel for the combat of the game. You fight a series of soldiers in a castle fort before a boss fight with Benedicta and her Garuda abilities. The combat is so good. I did the challenge multiple times just to play around and have fun with the combat. I feel this is really shaping up to be one of the best action games ever made. It's that good. Next is the music, which is mind-blowingly good. Composer Masayoshi Soken has really done it again. After his amazing music on Final Fantasy XIV, he brings all his expertise and skills to the table with Final Fantasy XVI. The battle music left me with a grin on my face as I was fighting enemies and bosses, and it really hypes you up whilst you're playing the game. It is top notch. Overall, you can really feel the love and dedication the developers have put into this game. It is one of the most impressive game demos I have ever played. Final Fantasy XVI is looking to be one for the history books and is shaping up to be one of the best Final Fantasy games ever. The production values are off the chart, the gameplay is slick and fun, the graphics are beautiful, the voice acting is amazing, and the music is fantastic. In all, it is an incredible experience for just a demo, and I can't wait for the full game. I had an amazing time with the Final Fantasy XVI demo, and now I just can't wait for the full game to drop. This is a definite contender for Game of the Year 2023 without question, and I think we will see that when the reviews drop within the next week. I'm loving the epic story of Final Fantasy XVI. It's like watching a TV drama and just wanting to know more and just wanting to watch that one more episode. That's how it feels. It's incredible and the gameplay is so good, and as an overall package I can't recommend it highly enough from just the demo that I played so far. So definitely check out the demo if you can. So that was my impressions of the Final Fantasy XVI demo. I had a blast playing it. Please support me on my Patreon at patreon.com/GenkiGamer. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Mata ne!